to Asia Outlook. I'm Melody and I'm here to report the top stories from around Asia. President Donald Trump has completed his 36-hour visit to India. The trip was marked by plenty of pageantry, but in the end, the two sides failed to clinch a long-awaited trade deal. CGTN Ravinder Bawa reports from New Delhi.
With a grand ceremonial reception given to the President Donald Trump at India's presidential palace, all the pomp and show around his two-day visit came to an end. By noon, President Trump sat down for exclusive talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on key issues like trade, defense, counter-terrorism, energy, coordination on regional and global issues, as well as people-to-people ties. New Delhi and Washington failed to sign a trade deal, but the two countries would begin talks to strike a comprehensive agreement
that is fair and reciprocal. Our teams have made tremendous progress on a comprehensive trade agreement, and I'm optimistic we can reach a deal that will be of great importance to both countries. Since I took office, U.S. exports to India are up nearly 60%.
On the first day, the President of the United States announced a $3 billion defense deal under which India will buy defense equipment from the United States. Homeland security and countering terrorism was high on the agenda.
Friends, in the same way, we are also increasing our cooperation in the area of homeland security and in fighting international crime. Today, the decision taken on homeland security will further strengthen this cooperation.
The two leaders also discussed the importance of a secure 5G wireless network and the need for this technology to be a tool for freedom, progress and prosperity. President Trump's 36 hours visit in India ended with a banquet at the President's palace. Ravinder Bawa, CGTN, Delhi.
South Korea reported 256 more coronavirus cases, bringing the total number of infections to 2,000 in the country. The death toll has risen to 13 in South Korea. The most affected region is Daegu, where it began in South Korea. It reported 182 new cases. Capital Seoul confirmed 6 more cases. South Korea is the worst-hit country outside China. A woman has tested positive for the novel coronavirus for a second time. She had been given the all-clear on February 6. The government says the next 2 weeks will be critical to containing the virus. The government is facing increasing scrutiny over what some say is a lukewarm response to the outbreak. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister has called on all schools to close from the 2nd of March. CGTN Grace Lee has more.
For the past week, Riley Masunaga has been working from home. As the coronavirus outbreak continues to take hold of Japan, the IT firm he works for has made it an official policy to telecommute.
I really prefer working in the office, so it's been really hard to focus. That's been kind of the biggest thing.
Some other businesses have begun letting staff work from home, but for the most part, commuters in Japan are still heading to offices as usual. The government hasn't made telecommuting an official policy. It wasn't until this Tuesday that the government released basic guidelines on how to avoid infection. That includes working from home if you feel ill. It also called on organizers to consider canceling or postponing events, though it's not something being enforced. Critics say these measures are far too weak and that officials have been much too slow in their response to the outbreak.
Basically, we're setting our work from home policies based on what the government is saying. And so the government is saying, like, oh, if you can, don't go to the office or don't commute during peak hours. But they aren't really setting any kind of hard policies, or they're not really officially making a statement, oh, you should try to work from home or you should not come to the office. And as long as they don't do that, I think people are going to still go to work.
As the number of cases continue to rise in Japan, the government has found it increasingly difficult to trace the routes of transmission. The northern island of Hokkaido has become a new hotbed for infections. On Wednesday, it announced its first death caused by the virus, and all public schools have been shut down temporarily. But there's a bigger question on the horizon for Japan, whether the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games could be on the chopping board.
There's no doubt at the moment that our total focus is on the Games happening on July 24. Every indication we have from the IOC is that the Games are proceeding, and that's the way we're working. We're not developing any other plans along the way.
Japan's government still insists it's too early to talk about a possible cancellation, but if it doesn't strengthen its response to the outbreak and curb the spread of the disease, there's a real risk that may just happen. A senior IOC member has said that Japan has until May to figure it out. Grace Lee, CGTN, Tokyo.
The death toll of the COVID-19 in Iran has risen to 12, the highest national tally outside China. CGTN correspondent Jack Barton learned that the price of masks has increased tenfold in Tehran, and many medicines and face masks have sold out. Under the current U.S. economic sanctions, it will be difficult for Iran to fight against the COVID-19.
Face masks are selling fast at pharmacies across Iran. In some drugstores, products aimed at curbing the spread of coronavirus have already sold out.
All the sanitizers are sold out, and we suffer from the lack of supply because Demosat, which is an Iranian brand that supplies these things, has not distributed any products for 2 weeks.
Iran's foreign ministry has confirmed the spread of COVID-19 to several cities since the outbreak was first reported Wednesday in Qom, about 120 kilometers south of the capital. Despite the official admission, there is still widespread skepticism about the number of new infections being announced.
I got higher numbers from my family and friends who work in healthcare centers in Tehran than statistics that local news declared.
It's a concern echoed on the streets where vendors sell masks for 10 times the normal price.
It is better that they inform people correctly. I think we have lots of rumours about this case, and this leads to chaos. I think that we won't face any problem if we care about our hygiene.
The government is trying to mount a major response. The dire state of Iran's healthcare sector will not make that easy, and that's not the only obstacle. The challenge of containing the outbreak is likely to be much greater for Iran because of the crippling sanctions. Healthcare is theoretically exempt from sanctions, though financial dealings with Iran are banned.
The Americans have said that the sanctions are not aimed at, let's say, stopping the medicine going to the country, but in fact, because there is no banking ties with other countries and companies in, let's say, in other part of the world, Iranians have been unable to, let's say, to import those pharmaceutical commodities and products.
The government announced schools would be closed from Sunday in 2 cities, including Qom, where the outbreak started. Taking no chances, Air Kuwait and Iraqi Airways have suspended all flights in and out of Iran, while Iraq has also implemented screening measures for the few remaining flights and a temporary ban on border crossings by land. Jack Barton, CGTN, Tehran.
Spending a month indoors with few chances to go outside could take a toll on one's mental health. Many in Wuhan find themselves depressed, aside from having to stay physically healthy. But a special hotline is there to help.
喂，你好。
The hotline at Wuhan Mental Health Center has been busy ever since the epidemic began. Zhang Jiaxiu is receiving a call from a father who got stranded in Wuhan due to the sudden shutdown of the city. He is worried about his daughter living in another city who repeatedly claims to have headaches without her parents' companion.
在这个艰难的时刻啊，我想不只是爸爸您，还有孩子的妈妈，还有孩子自己，都在承受，甚至包括着我们每一个人，都在承受着这样一个面临一个巨大的这种考验的时候，可能内心中都在受煎熬。
It's a 20-minute long conversation, just one of over 100 calls the center gets per day. The counselors say they have never been needed this much in the 2 decades the hotline's been around. A lot of callers' emotions, anything from distress to confusion, is due to the inconvenience brought by quarantining.
第1周的时候，你可能还能友好的安排一下自己的生活，然后你还知道做一些什么事情。然后我们说2周之后，你再重复做这些事情。第3周的时候，你再重复做这些事情，就是我们说那种心里就会有厌烦的感觉。
The calling center has recruited 200 professionals, thanks to a call forwarding system supported by a tech company. Ruan Hongwen is one of the volunteers. When she's not on shift, Ruan works in the community.
那如果说我们要在现实生活中见到过许多，就说这样的一些状态的人，那我们也可以根据就是我们听他的声音，然后呢就是说我们可以联想一下现实生活状态会有一些什么样的现状出来，这样呢有助于我们在接电话的时候对这样的一些来电者的状况进行做一些评估。
The consultants say they may receive more calls when the epidemic ends, as people shift their attention away from the disease. They say they will be ready for an even tougher challenge. 赵云飞 CGTN 武汉湖北 Province.
In Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with his Mongolian counterpart Khamtama Batulaga. The two leaders held talks in a Great Hall of the People. President Xi Jinping said Batulaga is the first head of state to visit China since the coronavirus epidemic began. He thanked him, saying the visit shows Mongolia attaches great importance to bilateral relations. The Mongolian president expressed his sympathy to the Chinese people and expressed a wish to combat the epidemic together. Batulaga also met with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, who said he's confident that China will meet its economic targets. This is Asia Outlook broadcasting from Myanmar International Radio. You can visit our website at mradio.com.mm. You can also listen to our radio programs live on the website. Iran's Vice President for Women and Family Affairs has tested positive for the novel coronavirus. Massoumeh Ebtekar is now home quarantined, and all members of her team have been tested for the virus. Iran has seen a sharp rise in the COVID-19 cases over the past few days. It has reported 245 confirmed cases and 26 in deaths so far. Several government officials, including Deputy Health Minister, are among the patients. The Japanese government has addressed concerns that the upcoming Olympic Games could be affected by the coronavirus outbreak. Organizers say they have contacted the International Olympics Committee after one of its members suggested the Games could be cancelled rather than postponed or moved. But Japan says the IOC has confirmed this is not its official position, and preparations for the Games are continuing as scheduled. In Thailand's capital Bangkok, a leading counter-trafficking group called Freeland and the Analytical Center of Excellence held a media briefing on Wednesday afternoon on a new report about criminal wildlife supply chains across Asia.
What exactly is the link between coronavirus and the trade in illegal and exotic wildlife?
Well, there's no doubt that this virus jumped from wild animals to people. The only question has been which animal and which market. Just like HIV, Ebola, MERS, SARS, these all jump from wild animals. They found a 99% genome match between pangolins and this corona to close all the wildlife markets.
But we've seen that ban imposed now by China, a temporary one as I understand it. But what more needs to be done, particularly with law enforcement agencies in this region who've been dealing with this trade for decades and have not really closed it down?
Well, all the wild animals that are being sold in China were trafficked in one way or another. They either were directly trafficked onto the marketplace or they were traded through these breeding centers that needed them for stock. China's run out of animals, so these animals are coming from other countries. So what China needs to do, besides closing these markets, is now teaming up with the other countries that are sending these wild animals there, like Thailand, like Indonesia, like Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, also some African countries. So this requires now law enforcement cooperation, because the same criminals, the syndicates that have been moving these wild animals into Wuhan's market, other markets in China, are still active. And they're also offloading these same animals under the same conditions into markets across this region. So this is not just a China problem. This is not just a pangolin problem.
But at the core of this, there are the consumers who are paying a lot of money for these illegal and exotic and now very endangered animals. What's the message we need to get across to them to stop them buying?
Well, the message is very simple and clear now. Stop eating wild animals, and it's exactly what the Chinese government has just warned everybody in the country to do, which is the exact right message.
Do you think it'll work?
I hope it'll work. This is the first time I've been excited as a wildlife conservationist in 28 years. This is revolutionary, so now we need to see China hold on to this ban. It's only temporary, and it's not 100% banning everything. So there'll be forces within China now that are going to push back, because this is a multi-billion-dollar industry within China alone. So hopefully the president and his leadership can hold on and keep this ban permanent. That would be the safest thing for people and for these wild
on the globe. Now back to you in the studio.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the risk of widespread outbreak in the U.S. is very low. He also put Vice President Mike Pence in charge of the national response. President Trump defended his administration's handling of the crisis, saying public health officials were ready, willing, and able to move quickly if the virus spreads. Public health officials warned Americans to prepare for more cases, with New York City announcing plans to provide up to 1,200 hospital beds.
This during a White House briefing just hours ago. He also put Vice President Mike Pence in charge of the national response. Trump defended his administration's handling of the crisis, saying public health officials were ready, willing and able to move quickly if the virus spreads. Public health officials warned Americans to prepare for more cases, with New York City announcing plans to provide up to 1,200 hospital beds. And the U.S. has reported 60 infections.
U.S. public health officials are reporting the first case of COVID-19 in a person who hasn't traveled to any affected regions and has no known contact with anyone who has the virus. CGTN Jim Spellman has more from Washington, D.C.
U.S. public health officials are reporting the first case of COVID-19 in a person who hasn't traveled to any affected regions and has no known contact with anyone who has the virus.
And so that suggests that the virus is out there in the community, and that means pretty much that everybody's at risk. We don't know who might be carrying it. We don't know who we could get it from.
The patient is a resident of Solano County, California, north of San Francisco. That's the same county as Travis Air Force Base, one of the U.S. quarantine centers. At the White House, President Trump announced Vice President Mike Pence would lead the federal response to the crisis.
We're very, very ready for this, for anything, whether it's going to be a breakout of larger proportions or whether or not we're at that very low level.
Public health officials warn the virus will likely spread to the U.S.
This virus does not respect borders. It does not distinguish between races or ethnicities. It has no regard for a country's GDP or level of development.
Trump defended travel restrictions that essentially bar entry to foreign nationals who have recently been in China. The WHO does not recommend closing borders, and China has objected to the move. Trump praised China's response to the crisis.
I spoke with President Xi. We had a great talk. He's working very hard, I have to say. He's working very, very hard. And if you can count on the reports coming out of China, that spread has gone down quite a bit.
Trump said that because the outbreak appears to be easing in China, it may be possible to lift those travel restrictions soon. He added, though, that new similar measures may be put in place for travelers who have visited other countries that are currently experiencing outbreaks. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Washington.
Fourth graders in a Chinese language immersion program in Utah recently got a letter from a very important person. Last month, some students at Cascade Elementary School in Orem, Utah, sent China's President Xi Jinping 50 Chinese New Year cards, and Xi Jinping recently wrote back. Let's take a look.
Dear boys and girls, my greetings to you. I'm so happy to get lovely cards from you on the Chinese New Year. I have read them all. Thank you for the wonderful thoughts. I've been to the United States multiple times, but not yet to Utah. I hope there will be an opportunity for me to be there, and if so, to visit you all in person. Just like you, I'm also fond of reading and sports. No matter how busy I am, I always try to find some time for exercise. China, like the United States, is a very big country. We have a civilization that is over 5,000 years old. The Chinese people, like the American people, are warm-hearted and friendly. The Chinese language has over 1 billion speakers in the world. By learning it, you may know more about Chinese history and culture. I'm really glad to see that you can write such beautiful Chinese characters and are so fluent in the language. I hope you will keep at it, make even bigger progress, and become young ambassadors for Sino-American friendship. This year is the Year of the Rat in the Chinese lunar calendar. I wish you all happiness, health, and progress in the new year. You're most welcome to visit China. Signed, Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China. I think we should be quiet. Wow.
我跟他说我很喜欢读书和我要来中国。我老师告诉我你喜欢做踢足球，和我告诉他我也喜欢做踢足球。我很想去中国吃中国的菜和看熊猫。我也说我属老虎，你属什么？日本人和你。我喜欢吃麻婆豆腐，可是你也喜欢麻婆豆腐吗？然后我也写了，你来美国，我要跟你去一个地方玩。
中文算是非常的流行的一个选择，所以我们的学校都有人在排队上学中文。所以之前我们的州长也会说中文嘛，那他那时候2008年的时候也是认为说我们州里因为这个就是生意方面的，就是我们的未来应该是有办法跟国外的人。合作嘛，所以他就是认为说，我们的学生应该多学一些外文。
我的搭档老师，英文老师，他有告诉我，他说我有3个学生想给我一个surprise， 给我一个惊喜。他说他们偷偷的去学校的办公室，给校长，我们的校长Mr. Johnson 有写了一个纸条，上面写就是说我们可不可以悄悄的募捐，他们想募捐，然后不管是口罩也好，钱也好，然后不要让我们的老师知道。然后对，就觉得特别感动。然后就是孩子们，他们是发自内心的很喜爱中国，就是很喜爱，就是跟对中国很有感情。
You can use your Chinese to help America and China work together. Yeah.
With the support and assistance of the municipal government, Shanghai Tesla Gigafactory resumed complete production in China on the 10th of February. Let's take a look around the workshop of the Giga factory.
我们从正月初8开始，每天上午8点前都去特斯拉的现场。我们筹措了几栋相对独立的房源，向特斯拉员工开放。
South Korean authorities started selling masks to Daegu citizens. On Monday, people lined up for hundreds of meters. Let's take a look. Motorists in Yangjiang City are the first in China to benefit from technology which guides drivers to available parking spaces and lets them pay using a smartphone. Hungarian company EPS Global rolled out its smart parking system in January, but says progress has been halted by the outbreak of the coronavirus. CGTN Isabel Ewing has more.
It's a familiar frustration driving around in search of a car park when you're running late for an appointment. Hungarian company EPS Global has come up with a solution, an app that finds a parking spot and guides the driver to it.
Currently in most cities in China, but also in Europe, it's a big problem that cars are driving around and are looking for a parking space, which is a lot of extra time for them, air pollution and creating traffic jams.
Zoltan Gyarmati recognised China as the ideal market for his technology. Rising car ownership in its crowded cities means solving parking problems and reducing congestion is vital.
China has now, 2020, reached over 250 cities with a population over 1 million people. So it's a huge market. So let's try. And that's how the idea came, to bring European parking management know-how and also technology to China.
1,000 parking sensors have been installed in Yangchong City. The local government has required all parking complexes to sign up so drivers have access to street parking as well as car parks owned by hotels, hospitals and department stores. These are the sensors installed in the parking spaces. They sense the geomagnetic field in the area, so if a car parks above, it senses the change and sends the data to the company's server in real time. Drivers can pay using WeChat or to parking wardens and are notified if their time is running out. If a driver has parked but not paid, a warden issues a ticket, and for 45 days the company's 54 employees have been on lockdown.
Because the people cannot work, they sit at home, but we still have to pay them some, it's called living expenses. And of course we pay the social securities, insurances, housing funds, all kind of labor costs. So February we had cost, but no revenue.
The company has a 20-year contract, so Gyarmati says the public health crisis won't do lasting damage to the business. He hopes to return to business as usual by mid-March. Isabel Ewing, CGTN, Budapest. Isabel Ewing, CGTN, Budapest.
And that's all we have for today's Asia Outlook on MI Radio. Thank you for being with us. I'm Melody. We'll be back next week. Until next time.